Welcome everybody to our Lunch and Learn presentation today. Today we're going to hear from 6 of our Masters in Public Administration students about their internship experience this past summer. Recognizing that this was a interesting and unusual summer to do an internship because of the pandemic, yet they were able to do that successfully, and wanted to give everybody a chance to hear something about their experiences. So we're going to do this as a panel. There's a few housekeeping things I want to cover first. Please make sure your microphone is muted so we don't get a lot of background noise, but feel free to use the chat function. Additionally, if you have questions, feel free to drop them into the chat or use the hand raise function on your reactions. And when I call on you, I'll ask you to unmute and ask your question. I would ask that you might want to turn your cameras off except for our panelists while they're presenting, and then turn them back on during the question and answer. Before we get started, I want to see if anybody has any announcements or upcoming events that they want to mention. I have 2 that Mackenzie asked me to mention. The first is that next week is Global Entrepreneurship Week at OU, and there'll be 2 panel conversations to discuss the challenges and opportunities created by the COVID-19 pandemic in the annual Careers in Entrepreneurship and Science. And I'll drop that web link into the chat so you can see that. And the other is that this is our second to the last Lunch and Learn for this semester. The next one will be next Friday, November 20th, with the Executive Director of the American Society of Adaptation Professionals, Ms. Beth Gibbons. So please join us for that. So now that we are ready to go, let me introduce our panel, and I'll call on each of them to very briefly talk about where they did their internship, and a little bit about what they did, about a minute each, and then we'll go to some other questions. So on our panel, we have James Burt, we have Habiba Mohammed, we have Kofi Aurora, we have Arabina, and we have Lyda Ngin. And who am I missing? Katlyn Perani. So we'll start with Kofi. Kofi, can you tell us a little bit about what you did for your internship and where?
Oh, okay. So my name is Kofi Bajima, and I am in the second year MPA program. And I did my internship this summer with a senior executive resident of Voinovich School, and his name is Dr. Jacob White. So due to the unusual circumstances of this COVID, we could not meet in person, and then the internship had to be done online. But we were able to actually write a paper on internet participation, and then student participation also in STEM program. So with I and Dr. Jacob White, we collaborated with Dr. Rojo and then the Ohio Academy of Science. And then we're able to draft a paper and try to draw a correlation between the low student participation in science first and then lack of internet resources, because we realized that the STEM program is something that's very dear to the American government. And therefore, we wanted to find out how we can increase student participation in the STEM program, even during this COVID pandemic. So that's what basically my research and my internship was on. So I collaborated with Dr. Jacob White, Dr. Rojo, and then the Ohio Academy of Science to be able to collect data on student participation in virtual fairs and how it affected them during this COVID pandemic era. Thank you.
Thank you, Kofi. Arabina, you are on my screen next, so I'll ask you to go next.
Okay, so my name is Arabina Dufua Krampa. I'm also currently a graduate student of the public administration, and I also did my internship with social enterprise ecosystem. My supervisors were John Glazer and then Faith Natson. What they do as a team is to help enterprises and investors achieve and measure greater impact in the society. They allocate resources and then increase contributions to building and growing a vibrant Appalachian community. So I was part of the research team, and we embarked on so many projects. Basically, I was kind of a research analyst because we're trying to collect data on how we can help companies. And the most exciting part of was the a brewery company which was trying to grow, and it was interesting to actually visit the sites and even see how breweries are able to produce their beer and all that. So basically, I was a research analyst, as I said earlier, and then doing more research on SROI projects and even 501c3, how organizations can register with the tax regulation authorities, and also it was packed and it was very successful at the end. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Habiba?
Okay, hello everyone. So for those who know me, my name is Habiba and I'm second year MBA student. Can you hear me? I just want to make sure. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got the funnest internship ever because I got to work with the Athens Humane Society organization in Athens, and this organization it's like more into a shelter and organization helping animals, especially cats and dogs, and like taking care of them and physically, and then get someone to adopt them. I have been working with them on building their website that will be launched next year. And I also had the opportunity to work on organizational management software. They had a new software for managing their volunteers and adopters, donors. The Athens Humane Society gets their funding from donors and membership. They don't get from the government. Yeah. Should I say the challenges and the or that's gonna come next?
No. Yeah, okay. That'll come next. Thank you.
That's it. Okay.
Lyda?
Yes. I tried to turn on my video. I'm not sure if it works. Frankly, to be honest, I got my first internship with the Missoula Interface Collaborative located in Missoula, Montana, but then the COVID changed everything and I was immediately able to find the internship with the Cinch LLC. It's a company that making business on the real estate and the liquor store. And during my work, and it is located in Grand Junction, Colorado. So my work with the Cinch LLC, I'm working basically as a communication advisor. I help them manage and actually implementing the project, create the e-commerce website, consulting with the social media, and I also do the marketing and promote branding for their company. And the other thing that I really am excited to work with them about is to collaborate and try to suggest and consult them about the corporation social responsibility. Like doing business alone is not enough. You should do more by helping the community and get interact together. Yeah, it's part of my team. I'm going to talk later. All right, thank you.
Okay, James.
Hi guys. So I worked with two counties in the region. The first was Jackson County with Sam Brady, and the second was Meigs County, Perry Varnado. In Jackson, I worked primarily with site management. I helped organize their information on a program called Zoom Prospector. I also did things like aerial shots of their properties. site due diligence, and then also with Jackson County, I helped them with a consulting visit from Insight Consulting regarding a mock site visit. And then with Perry, he really relied on my research. So they were working on a new property that they were looking how they should market it and what outlet they should use, and they wanted it backed with some academic research. So I was actually able to pull from academic, state, and then also some Voinovich scholars to provide them a pretty extensive marketing study.
Thank you. And Katie.
Hi, everyone. My internship this summer, I was working with Mayor Tom Johnson, who is an executive in residence at the Voinovich School. And under his wing, I managed the Perry County Farmers Market, which is the next county over from Athens County. That definitely presented a lot of challenges. I had to work with officials from the Ohio Department of Health, Perry County Department of Health, and the Ohio Department of Agriculture to make sure that we were compliant with like cottage food laws, but also compliant with COVID-19 restrictions. So that included working with a couple local companies to make sure that we had like cones and caution tape to make sure that we herded people where they needed to go. And that we had like hand sanitizer stations, masks, and all of that to provide to not only the vendors, but also to any of the people in the community that came by the farmers market. I also got to work with the Foundation for Appalachian Ohio and making sure that we were compliant with all of the requirements of some of the grants that we were awarded. So we had some grants that were awarded not only to operate the market, but also to be compliant with COVID-19 restrictions. And then also worked with Rural Action to procure some produce to sell in the market. So it was nice to work in my home county, which is considered a food desert, to provide some fresh produce to some of my fellow Perry Countyans.
Thank you. So there's a lot of diversity of experience in this group. My next question is thinking about the 5 MPA outcomes, and I'll say them quickly. Lead and manage in public governance, participate and contribute in the policy process, analyze, synthesize, think critically, solve problems, and make decisions, articulate a public service perspective, and communicate and interact with diverse and changing workforce. So I'm going to start with Kofi. Can you talk about how you see your project possibly contributing to the public policy process?
Yeah, so our project mainly focused on STEM, and then during the research, what I found out was that Congress has passed so many laws to ensure that STEM programs become attractive and then get more students to be able to attract to join the STEM program so that they'll be able to contribute to the society at large. But one thing we found out was that due to the lack of household internet in some of these places, most of these students are unable to contribute or are unable to join some of these STEM programs that would actually nurture them for future STEM careers. So one thing I found out during this internship was that to be able to contribute to the policy process, our research was kind of trying to draw a correlation between how low internet access in household affects students' participation in STEM programs. And therefore, we're able to write a paper on that, and then our aim for the paper is to be able to help steer policy process towards increasing internet access for some of these students in the rural areas, especially in the Appalachian region, because we found out that there was a correlation between students with low internet access in their households and how they actually joined STEM programs. So that was like my biggest takeaway from this internship program, was that we're able to write a paper and write an executive summary on how the government would be able to actually expand internet access in some of these areas, because during this pandemic, we've actually come to realize how important internet access is for students and even the whole population at large. So expanding internet access and a stable internet would actually help students who are otherwise unable to actually contribute their quota to the STEM education and then be able to build a career based on that, be able to join some of these science fairs, even if it moves to a virtual program. And therefore, it would actually help them in the near future. Thank you.
So James, can you speak to what one of the outcomes that you felt like your internship process helped you with?
Yeah, so both of my experiences with Meigs County and Jackson County really relate with analyze, synthesize, and think critically, solve problems, and make decision. So starting with Meigs, they had a property they had to market. So, you know, I had to start from a really macro perspective and narrow down the research to something that would benefit them. So I think that analyzing and synthesizing allowed them to think critically. And hopefully in the future, they're going to solve, you know, economic development issues with that property that they're looking at. And then also the same with Jackson County. So being tasked with gathering information and then really locating the information, whether that be utility information or site due diligence or mapping or whatever it is, it's still they're finding this information and bringing it together and then really shooting at the target to solve the problem that they're working at. So that one really hit home with me.
Okay, great. Habiba, can you speak to what MPA outcome you feel like you worked on in your internship?
Sure. So for my internship, I feel like I focused more on managing programs and communication aspect. So I helped more into the operation, daily stuff that the organization did, and I helped them develop a marketing campaign to reach out for more people and like more fostering families and more adopters. I also helped them to develop their volunteer system and how to reach out to more volunteers to help them, since they are not getting enough funds from the government. So I think their main work is voluntary. Also in terms of managing programs, I help them with, the communication. Like I said before, I helped them also in developing their website, and we built it from scratch. We started they have already a website, but now they are working on like developing it and to be like more trendy, and like to add also part of their products, because now they have products to sell to get more funding. So they are trying to make it into a social enterprise more to get like an income out of it. So yeah, I help them with taking the photos of their products and like having the content for it on the website. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Lyda, can you speak to what outcome you worked on? Communication?
A piece of communication, and also I think I grow a lot in terms of analyze, critical thinking, and solving some of the problem. So first of all, it was my first time ever having working experience with the private sector. So by working at that place, it allowed me to see what are the differences between the nonprofit operation, the structure, and how the private sector is working. And besides working on a really big website project that costs like $40,000, and I am the only person who managing it is quite challenging. The other achievement that allowed me to learn and see, because when we were in the nonprofit, we find it pretty challenging to convince the private sector to support them, like how to make them give us fund or donation. So I took this opportunity to see like how can I convince and give him the evidence that by contribute to the community, you also gain something back. There are so many stores that quite the same type of store in Grand Junction. So I suggest him, if you want to be like outstanding and being well known by many people with like good pictures, help the community. So with all the discussion and consultation, he decided to contribute to one of the event called the Viva Vino, that's supposed to help the people and the senior people in the community to have the shelter. And he contributed and being like the second biggest donor in the community. And the event was supposed to organize this September, but then because of the pandemic, it has to postpone to next year. But I think this is one of the things, and it's related a lot to what we've been studying here with the MPA leadership, PPP, how to build partnership all together. Also, internal communication. I have a lot of experience with my local people in Cambodia, but I never really get to know or interact with a lot of different stakeholders in the United States. This can allow me to see like people from private or business act very differently, more flexible. They don't really have system like us in the organization or the public area. Yeah.
Okay.
That's it for me.
Now you're moving around on my screen. Erwa, what do you feel like you worked on in terms of the MPA outcomes? You're still mute.
Sorry.
There you go.
Yeah, I
No
would
worries.
like to talk on communicating and interacting with diverse workforce and then helping to analyze and then solve problems. The CE program is there to make an impact, and then so basically all we're trying to do is to be able to talk to what industries or small companies are doing and how we can help them to gather data to help them make the impact they want to make. So we had regular meetings on Mondays, which helped us to communicate and interact with each other, helped us to create more teamwork because we're working in teams. So I worked on different projects with different people all the time, and this helped us to develop some kind of friendship, to be able to be engaged with each other, more involvement of everybody in the program, and then we are allowed to talk about issues and talk about projects that we feel we can help and we can contribute to. And that was very insightful, helping us communicate with local authorities, especially with the 501c3. We took trips to the morning dew farms at Meigs County as well. And we are able to interact with clients, and this has helped me with collaboration and communication at all levels to be able to help make an impact. Yes.
Thank you. Katie, would you speak to outcomes?
Yeah, so the one that I worked primarily with was the communicating and interacting with the diverse and changing workforce and citizenry. And I did this in a multitude of ways. So a farmer's market really affords you the ability to interact with the community at large. So I was interacting mostly with like the citizens of Perry County, but also with the community of Somerset and some of the other organizations that I worked with. One thing that I feel like I'm the most proud of in this aspect was working with local food pantries and donating some of the leftover produce that we did not sell. And I'd say the nonprofit that we worked with the most was the American Legion Post in Roseville. And they have a food bank that they have, and whatever produce they don't send to their food bank goes to some elderly veterans, which is very rewarding on my part. And then another aspect that I did this was I ran the social media marketing accounts for the Perry County Farmers Market. And I did this through Facebook and through Instagram. And I also worked to get like an actual physical banner to hang up in town, which was pretty cool. So yeah, that's how I would speak to that.
So I'm going to start with you. The next questions I'm going to put together. What was the best thing about your internship experience? And again, what was the most challenging thing? And the challenge can be COVID or non-COVID related.
So I would say that COVID-19 was definitely very tricky to work around, especially in such like a large, like a farmer's market. It's pretty difficult to make sure that social distancing requirements are being met and making sure that everyone is wearing a mask. Because of course there is some resistance that comes with that. Some people don't necessarily like wear their masks or socially distance or anything like that. So ensuring those requirements were being met was kind of difficult in some ways with vendors and visitors alike. But overall, it all went pretty well. We didn't have too many issues. I think that the community of Perry County is taking the pandemic seriously, so that was nice and helped. And the most enjoyable thing, I would say, just meeting those food insecurity needs was definitely very rewarding, and getting to work with the community at large, getting to interact with people. So this was something that my partner and we did together over the summer. So that was fun to work with him doing that. Then yeah, just interacting with all the community members, and I made a lot of friends with some of the other vendors, which was very nice. So overall, it was just a very nice summer, very rewarding, especially working with some of the food banks and other nonprofits that we did. I feel like we made a pretty good impact this summer, and it felt nice.
Great, thank you. B, you want to go next? What was the best and what was the most challenging? You have to unmute yourself.
Yes, for me, I think that the most challenging is not getting to meet the lovely people I work with, especially Faith, because I've still not met her personally, and she's actually a woman leading such a big nonprofit, and I would like to meet her personally and be able to talk to her about so many issues. So getting to meet the team, and then getting to, be able to involve in activities together was restricted because of the COVID. But the exciting part about it is the fact that my team and I were able to take the trip to Meigs County to see the Morning Dew farms, because I've never seen a brewery farm before. And they actually had a brewery bath, a bathtub for beer bath. And they had so many things that I hadn't seen personally in my home country. So it was quite exciting to actually meet the clients and be able to also see the beautiful place that they have set up for their small business, and also to be able to we took pictures for their websites because they had a very bad website. So for them to be able to get the customers that they need, we took beautiful pictures. We actually went with a camera. We were photographers, and it was so fun getting to interact with them and to meet their clients, even during COVID, but we still protected we got our masks on and still were able to make that trip, and it was very successful and very interesting. Yes.
Great, thank you. Kofi, what about you? What was the best and most challenging?
Okay, so I'll start with the most challenging. The most challenging was having to work over the internet. And then with Athens internet during the summer, it was not like the best experience because we usually had internet hitches and skirmishes, and it was not like a pretty experience with that. But then we're still able to get so much work done, and then that was like trying to overcome the challenges. And then the most exciting thing was that being a researcher, I've always been writing a lot about education, but mostly my research had been focused on Ghana, and during this internship, like my relationship with Dr. Jacob White, and then collaboration with the Ohio Academy of Science and Dr. Riho actually brought to bear the similarities between Ghana and the USA in terms of STEM education and how much needs to be done. And I actually really got to appreciate how similar and different these two countries are in terms of their education. So it was really an exciting experience to get to know like the different backgrounds with the US. And then I actually was happy because I was able to ease into like researching in the US educational sector, because it looked a little bit bleak for me on a glance, because it's very diverse and different from the way education is run in third world countries. So it was a fulfilling experience for me to be able to learn about the US educational system and how different or similar it is to the education in a third world country. So that was like my best experience. But then obviously COVID was a very big factor. And then I was pretty sad that I could not meet Dr. Jacob White until recently. It took like almost 3 months before I actually met him in person. And he's a wonderful person. And I wish that we could have met in person much earlier. So that was like my most challenging experience, and then my best experience with the internship.
Great, thank you. Lyda, what was the best and most challenging?
I go with the challenge first.
Sure.
I didn't realize the website e-commerce in the United States, it's such a complicated process. I used to help organizations back in Cambodia building better websites all the time, but it requires not like less knowledge, less a requirement to do it, but at the same time, these challenges turn out to be a lot of lesson learned for me. I've learned so very much, and I thought, even though I thought it was easier, just like when I helped Habitat for Humanity Cambodia build the website, the Redland store website is just a completely different. The way that you communicate with supplier online is not easy at all. You have to talk to like 10, 15 different vendors to get the price, try to negotiate, and thinking which one is better, do a lot of research. Yet I repeat, I've learned a lot from it as well. And the most exciting things is, again, about my corporation social responsibility goal that I'm able to. Oh, the other challenge is very hard to get the private company like follow the structure, or it's like they are very flexible, like staff meeting, they want to do it or not, it's up to them. And I try to help the minutes. Sometimes they read, the other they don't, other time they don't really read it. This is hard to put them in place, but I try my best. And the great part is the CSR that I achieve it, and I hope they keep doing it. And it's for the benefit of the organization or the company and the community they live in. That's all for me.
Okay. James, and who has not gone yet with the challenges, and Habiba, I think. James and Habiba. Okay, James, you first. Challenges and best part.
Okay, so I'm going to contradict myself a little bit, but the virtual experience really added something to my internship that was positive. So I was able to work for 2 different organizations with 2 different personalities. And I got to see what I like about one and what I didn't like about one, and what, who did this in a way that I preferred and who didn't. And also their intentions of having an intern. So like Jackson County was super hands-on and really took me into their little bubble and their little community. And Perry just really relied on the power of somebody that's learning at Voinovich school to crank through some research. So that was super exciting. But what was challenging about that is staying in consistent communication with people throughout COVID while you're at home. You don't really get that hands-on experience, like the in-person hands-on experience that you would if I was going to the office every day and meeting with those people. And I think that kind of influences networking and relationships. But because of COVID, I had an interesting experience, and I think that I'm walking away with more professional development and greater ability to complete work in the future, whether that be economic development or anything else that an MPA leads to.
Okay, great. And Habiba, best and most challenging.
Okay, so for me, the most challenging part was it was remotely. So I didn't have the chance to meet the whole team. I only met with my supervisor like once every 2 weeks, and we have been like communicating via email and text. Also, a challenge for the organization was to get funding, since they are not getting governmental funds. So they mainly depend on like the donations and memberships. And during the COVID, a lot of people were in a really hard economic situation. So it was hard to get people to donate money. And a lot of people surprisingly with like the COVID, they let their animals, like they left their animals, or because some people thought that COVID can be transferred from animals, so they were afraid, so they like just let them go. And that was like a disaster. We had at the beginning of the COVID, we had tons of kittens and cats all over the streets, and we had to find fosters, and to find them adopters and fosters in the COVID, it's even harder because people do not want to contact anyone, you know, and the social distancing thing. The fun part, or the best thing, that I got to work, I have an experience working with rescuing animals and working with shelters back in Egypt, but I haven't had the experience here. So I learned a lot about the system and how they do it, and how they provide some services for like less money than like the big vets, in order to keep it sustained, to keep like the shelter sustained. And also the most fun part, I got to foster cats and play with a lot of cats. So that was like really, it made my summer. Yeah, that's it.
That sounds like a good part and a dangerous part too. You could end up with a lot of cats.
I know, but the good part is I only fostered. It was heartbreaking to give them away, but I enjoyed my time with them.
Okay. So I'll throw this out to the group. What do you know now that you wish you'd known at the start of your internship? And then our last question is, what advice would you give someone who's planning on doing an internship next spring or summer?
Oh, okay. So I'll go on what I know now that I wish I knew during the internship. So during the internship, I actually found out that I needed, or I should have known more about Excel, and then some of the different functions that actually contributes and help you to be able to analyze data. And then I'm actually very grateful to Dr. Riho, because I'm actually taking the quantitative research methods class with him. And then the use of Jamovi has actually been very helpful. And I wish I knew that then before I actually did my internship, because it would have made things a little bit more easier. So that's one thing that I wish I knew more. And I'm actually glad that I'm taking the internship course now, because it would have made like analysis of data very easier for me then, because I had to actually learn some of the things on my own and try to actually understand it. So that was kind of like some of the most things I wish I had known. But then one of the best advice I would always say to anybody who wants to get into an internship program is that you have to be willing to learn, and then be committed to doing the internship anywhere you are placed. Because if you don't have that commitment to want to learn, it becomes harder, it becomes a chore. And then especially during the pandemic, it takes a huge toll on you. And then I had to take courses during the summer. So when I was taking courses and it got to a point where, like, had it not been my hunger to want to learn, it would have become very difficult for me to focus on the internship, because it is very hard to actually like shuffle through the things you have to do during your summertime and then having to have an internship. So I think that the willingness and then the hunger to wish to learn, it's actually something every intern should have, because it actually helps you, and then it actually gives you the resilience to be able to go through the internship experience. Thank you.
Okay. James, you want to follow that? What do you wish you'd known at the beginning or before the beginning, and what advice would you give?
So what I wish I had known from at the beginning is to trust the process of the program. So I came in with an idea of what I thought I wanted to do for an internship when I looked at the curriculum before I applied, and really with what you learn throughout the classes, and then also the relationships that you build with the people at Voinovich, you're able to get an experience that you didn't expect it to be that good. So you would have, with the like ideas that you have when you come in, you would have settled for a subpar experience. But if you do rely on the people and the experiences of, you know, your professors and the faculty, I think you really get a good experience. With that being said, the same would be for the advice, is to ask for assistance from the faculty and staff. And as I said in the chat, you know, deep rooted in the areas, Athens and also elsewhere, you know, in Southern Ohio, all of Ohio and even outside of Ohio, they can find you places that you can really get a good experience from, and they can match your interests with those of nonprofits and private sector organizations throughout the community.
Great, thank you. Katie, do you want to speak to that? what do you wish you'd known before, and what advice would you give?
Since I've had these questions yesterday, I've had a little bit of trouble with these last two questions, or at least the first one. What I wish I would have known beforehand. Maybe some accounting principles would have been nice. Keeping the books for the farmers market was definitely a learning curve, but I feel like I've attacked it pretty head on and I've done well, or at least I'd like to think so. Maybe a little bit, I'm not sure about that one. But then for the second question, for anyone looking to do an internship. So like me, myself, I'm very much so an introverted, shy person. Have to really force myself to get out there. So anyone looking for an internship, if you're in the same boat as me, to just really trust the process and just go for it. Trust yourself, be confident. Put yourself out there for sure. To find those experiences and those opportunities that are out there, because there are 1,000,010 opportunities out there. You just have to know where to look. So working with the Voinovich staff is definitely very helpful with that. If they don't have the answer you need, then they sure do know somebody that can get you the answer that you need. So yeah, I think that's the advice that I would give someone.
All right, great. What do you wish you had known before that you know now, and what advice would you give? You have to unmute.
Yes. So yes, during the start of my internship, Faith and John Glazer organized a training session for all the interns. And it was about how to do industry and market research and be able to get the tools that would help us get the facts right and get all the statistics that they need for our research. And we got to know about AB style, Statista, all the ways to get consumer statistics, and even, everything that would help us in our research was given to us. And I wish I knew something about it before starting the internship, because immediately after the training, we were supposed to start work and your project was ready for a start. And I wish I knew more, because I had to keep going back to refer to the notes I took during the training. And the training was actually assessed as it went on. So once you finish with Statista, you are graded based on the questions they asked. And it was a great experience. So I wish I knew something about being able to do market and industry research, at least something little, before getting into it. But this has helped me a lot. And it will help me with my future projects and even my capstone as well, how to get the data that I need to complete my capstone and my final project. So my advice to anybody who wishes to start an internship is to take up the challenge, brace yourself. It's a great experience, and it's an opportunity to network, to meet people who can, guide you through your career goals and prospects. And I will urge everybody to, be able to talk to their supervisors. Ask questions, take initiative, allow yourself to pass through the process, knowing that you would achieve something and it will be a great opportunity to you. So yeah, thank you.
Yes. Habiba, what do you wish you'd known before you started, and what advice would you?
Okay, so I wish I knew more about working with softwares and like management softwares, because that was the first time I deal with this kind of softwares, and it took me some time to like understand how it works and how to get the data inside. So yeah, it took me some time to understand, but actually I'm so happy that I learned this kind of how to work with those kind of softwares, management softwares, and it's super easier than Excel and like having Word documents or OneDrive or whatever. Okay, so like my advice, I think just to be flexible and to ask for more. So if you got an internship and you feel like you are not doing enough and you want to learn more, don't be afraid to ask for more and to talk with your supervisor that you need more work. Sometimes they are really sensitive and they don't want to burn you out. So you just need to like communicate with them and tell them that, okay, I'm done with that and I'm good to give me more of work. I want to learn about this. I want to learn about that. So yeah, and be flexible, because like for me, I had to do a lot of like boring daily work job like data entry and stuff like that, but it made me learn a lot of information about like the daily operation stuff, and it may seem boring to you, but it's really important for the organization that they have the support or help for someone to do this kind of like paperwork and like data entry stuff. So yeah.
Okay. Lyda, you're the last one to answer these two questions. What do you wish you'd known before you started, and what advice would you give? And then I'm going to ask Dr. Jolley and Dr. Lewis if they have a few comments before we open it up to question and answers.
There are two things I wish I would learn. First of all, I should have known the e-commerce for the private. It's taking more than 2 or 3 months to complete it, and not to mention I managed the project by myself. And the second one is actually really relate to the course that I'm taking this semester, is the social entrepreneurship. If only I have taken that course before the internship, it would give me more perspective and allow me to observe more opportunity and learn more about how they make the business, and looking at the stakeholder I communicate with and sees like how the process that they work. So it would be very helpful. Like you learn the theory concept and then you go and practice out there. What is the other thing I'm supposed to say, Dr. Johnson?
What advice would you give to somebody?
Oh, networking. I don't know. I'm lucky. I'm pretty good at it. Like my first internship, I sent one email and then I got it. And it's also because that executive director of the United Way, she's been knowing me forever, and like not forever. I was interned with her for a week or two, and she know what I can do. And the other one, I just talked to the friend I know, and then she introduced because they know. So my recommendation would be put yourself out there, let people know what you can do and your passion, and social networking, professional, and sometimes in a more relaxing, friendly way. But then also be serious about your skill. And then as long as you know what you want to do and you can do, it's less challenging to find a job or internship.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you all. This was wonderful. I really appreciate it. I want to give Dr. Jolley and Dr. Lewis a chance if they have any comments or questions, and then we'll open it up.
Well, I'll start. This was great. I loved hearing about all of your experiences. And the only thing I would say is that many of you talked about working outside your competencies, or really having to challenge yourself or learn something on your own. And that's really the one of the best things about the internship experience, is you're going out into a position that you probably don't have all of the competencies for, and that really causes you to stretch and take risks in a safe environment, in an internship environment. And I think that many of you articulated that, and that really makes us happy, because that's the role, not only to apply the knowledge that you have learned in the MPA program, but also really push yourself and take those risks and develop new competencies on your own, because that's what you'll have to do in any kind of employment situation. So thank you all for sharing those.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis. So as Dr. Lewis and Dr. Johnson will probably echo, I don't have all the competencies that are required either. So, you know, those are things that you do have to learn on your own. See, this is the support that I get for Dr. Johnson saying I have this much. But in all seriousness, I appreciate Dr. Johnson organizing this, and thanks to Mackenzie for all of her help as well. It's great to hear about the experiences that all of you had. These are clearly unique times and challenging times, and to be able to do what you did under those circumstances is remarkable. The only thing that I would add is just to keep in mind that everyone now is on the 1-year MPA track that we put together, the 12-month track. And so as you look at your internship, begin to think about what your goals are as it relates to going into the job market, your future employment, et cetera, because you do have the option of structuring your internship around the first summer session. If you want to complete your internship in the first summer session, and you can get the 150 hours in, and then you can be done and go into the workplace in July. I do anticipate this is a pretty challenging job market that we're still going to be facing. That would be my my educated guess. So many of you may decide you want to do your internship over the full summer session, and you have that option as well. So just some things to think about as we get ready to look at signing up for the internship class for the summer. You might want to think about what does that look like in terms of your prospective employment. You know, you have some flexibility. We'll certainly have some more conversations about that in the spring as you look to finish up. Dr. Johnson and I will be meeting with everyone probably virtually. But you know, those are just some things to think about as we go forward into the summer. We put this in place for you to have some flexibility and options, and you do. So just think about those. Again, we're here as a resource for you, and we will be able to, we'll help you with finding some placements if you have challenges in doing that, particularly in this environment. So again, thanks to everyone, and I'll turn it back over to Dr. Johnson.
Thank you, Dr. Jolley. I am very impressed with everybody's discussion of their experience. I really appreciate you sticking with it during this crazy and difficult time. And it sounds like you had some awesome experiences. I would open it up to questions from anybody in the audience. So you can unmute yourself and show yourself if you have a question you want to ask, or you can put it in the chat. People have been answering questions in the chat pretty consistently, and thank you everybody for the nice kudos in the chat. Appreciate it. And sorry we're not in person, because you know if we were in person I would have cookies or brownies to share. And you get pizza, because you never get pizza.
That's true. Ay, ay, ay.
Okay. Well, if people don't have any questions or comments, we'll wrap this up and let you go a few minutes early. Thank you all very much. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I don't have any question. I just want to say I really appreciate for the MPA program, professor or director. It's like, I feel like there's a lot of support and always great responding. And Dr. Jolley has been amazing. He's like very fast in responding to our question. And Dr. Johnson, you are always understanding our situation and like helping us like a lot. I'm really thankful for that.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you.
we want to be here. Yeah, we want to be here for you. We definitely.
And Dr. Marsha, I love your class. I keep saying that.
Thank you. It's great having all of you.
Yeah. Okay, well, remember next week is Global Entrepreneurship Week with some panels. I put the link in the chat. However, if you don't find it in the chat, it's on the OU website under Ohio University Entrepreneurship. And we have our last Lunch and Learn next Friday. And I think Mackenzie will be back to help with that. And it's Beth Gibbons from the American Society of Adaptive Professionals. So it should be an interesting one. Thank you all. hopefully you can enjoy the weekend and get out and enjoy the sunshine. Take care.